Hello, John here. Today I am going to continue with the second part of my talk on boredom. Let me just remind you what happened in the first part. I said to you that I can prove to you that boredom does not exist, and in order to do this, I asked you to participate in an experiment with me, and at the moment you are sitting in the park waiting for me to return. I have gone out on a mission to find another subject to help us in our experiment, and I told you I would not be long. I also made some conditions that I wanted you to follow while I am away. So now I am heading back to the park with the blind man, our new subject, but I have not told him exactly what we are going to do. By the way, let me mention another part of the conversation I had with him, which I did not tell you about before. I asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Fred." "How old are you, Fred?" "I am 72. And I hope you don't mind me asking, Fred, but how long have you been blind?" "No, not at all. I don't mind you asking. I have been blind since birth." Since birth. You may think that last question was a little bit rude, and I probably agree with you. However, I really wanted to know for my experiment. So now we get back to the park where you are sitting. I take a quick glance at my watch and realize in shock, oh, I have been gone over an hour. So you must have been getting pretty bored. I feel a bit guilty for having been gone so long, and I am afraid you may have got fed up and gone home. But no, when I get there you are sitting, looking very bored and maybe a little annoyed. So I say to you, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to give you a name. I'm going to call you David." So I say to you, "Oh, David, I am ever so sorry for keeping you waiting so long. It took me a long time to find someone to volunteer to help me. Let me introduce you to Fred. Fred, this is David. Nice to meet you, Fred. And you too, David. So, Fred, would you please take a seat next to David? Just there, that's fine, thank you. Now, this experiment is only going to take 1 or 2 minutes, and as I said before, it is totally painless, and in fact I think you may enjoy the experience. I take David's phone out of my pocket and give it to him, saying, "Here is your phone, David, and I wonder if you could tell me what the experience has been for you of sitting here for over an hour with nothing to do. I hope you did obey my conditions and not involve yourself in any activity. Did you do that?" "Yes, I did," David says. Then David goes on to explain what it was like sitting for 1 hour with nothing to do. He says, I was really bored, especially without my iPhone. I must admit I am in the habits of using my iPhone all the time, and even though it wasn't there, I kept reaching into my pocket to find it. In fact, I must have done this 10 or 15 times before I got it into my thick head that you had taken my phone. I tried to find ways to distract my mind from the boredom, but it was very difficult to do because of the conditions you made for me. So yes, it was terribly boring, and I'm sure if you had been a few minutes longer, I would already have gone home. Well, thank you very much for waiting, David. So I don't want to keep you any longer, so let's begin with the experiment. Now, Fred, I would like you to close your eyes, please. Yes, that's fine. Now just relax. I am going to put my fingertips lightly on your eyelids, and I'm going to say some magic words. Don't worry though, you will not feel any pain. So Fred closes his eyes, and very gently I put my fingertips on his eyelids. Then I mumble some magic words. Now I'm not going to tell you what these magic words are, because you may be tempted to use them with someone else, and this could be very dangerous. After muttering the magic words, I say to Fred, Fred, I am now going to count backwards from 5 to 1. When I reach 1, I want you to open your eyes. So here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now open your eyes. Fred opens his eyes, and there is an incredible look of shock and confusion on his face. Shock and confusion. He turns his head around, looking in every direction, totally in awe, A-W-E, of the world around him, which he can now see for the first time. So as you can see, I am a magician, and I have just performed a miracle. And Fred, who has never been able to see anything, can now see the whole world around him. The expression on his face is worth 1,000 words. Confusion, awe, excitement, wonder. Really, there are not quite sufficient words to describe his expression and his feelings. Can you imagine how someone would feel if they were suddenly able to see a world which previously had only ever been a black space? I find it impossible to imagine, but I am quite sure it would be an unforgettable experience. Fred is beginning to shake with excitement, and tears are streaming down his face. With joy, though, not sadness. And I ask him, "Tell me, Fred, how do you feel?" He replies, "Words cannot express my feelings of joy at this moment." I now turn to David and say to him, "David, both you and Fred are having the same experience of the world at this moment. You are both sitting in almost exactly the same spot. You can both see almost exactly the same things, but whereas you are terribly bored, you can see Fred is anything but bored, totally the opposite to you, even though your external experience is exactly the same. This should prove to you that boredom does not exist. It is only in your own mind, meaning you look at the world around you and you think it is boring. Fred looks at the world around him and he thinks it is extremely fascinating and exciting. The difference for these points of view is in the mind of the beholder, beholder, B-E-H-O-L-D-E-R, not in the external reality. So I think I have proved my case that boredom does not exist. However, we all know that although Fred today is overawed with joy, as the days go by and he gets used of having eyesight, he will eventually become bored with it. We don't know how long this might take. I'm sure it will take a long time. However, the time will come when he can sit in the space where he is now, next to David, and have exactly the same feeling of boredom. This is because the experience is not fresh anymore, and what unfortunately seems to happen with us human beings is the more we do something, the less interesting it becomes. This seems to be part of the process of developing and growing old. When we are children, we are much more fascinated by things going on around us in the external world. However, as time goes on and we have the same experience over and over, we stop seeing it as a new thing and it becomes boring. Or you could say we take it for granted. Take it for granted. So, as with many problems in our lives, boredom is something which in a way we inflict upon ourselves. We cause ourselves to become bored because we do not look at the world or our experiences with fresh eyes. We experience things and see things with old, tired eyes. This process seems inevitable, but there are some things we can do to try to reverse it. First of all, we can try to be aware that we are not experiencing things anymore. So while David was sitting in the park, for example, with nothing to do, he may have begun to explore the local area with his eyes and started looking again at things which mostly do not interest him nowadays. Things such as the trees or the birds or the insects. He may have tried to reawake his sensory experiences through a process of becoming more aware. That's all for now. Goodbye.